Law number 13, the law of identity. Shared values define the team. Let me give you the difference between a personal value and an organization value. A personal value is something that influences and guides my behavior. In other words, there are certain values that I have in my personal life that those values influence me and guide me. They determine what kind of decisions I make. They determine what kind of behavior I have. They're values. They're personal values. They influence, they guide my personal life and behavior. An organization's value is something that influences and guides the team's behavior. Now, what I want you to understand about values is that they influence and they guide. We talked earlier on the laws of teamwork about the law of the big picture, which was a vision law. Now, when I speak of vision, I talk about the head of the organization. When I talk about values, I talk about the heart of the organization. Values are the heart and the soul of your company. They're what gives your company purpose and meaning and significance. It's truly why you work there. And so let me give you some tools and understanding of what values do for an organization and how they apply to the organization. So let's go to your notes. The values of an organization are like, first of all, glue. They hold an organization together. In other words, the values of your organization at this moment have the ability to keep you from being scattered or from falling apart. When a company goes through a crisis, when a company goes through a very difficult time, what allows that organization to continue to be strong is its values. And the moment that we understand what values do, we realize it's like glue that holds the organization together. Number two, the values of an organization are like a foundation. They provide stability for the company to grow. In fact, it's the foundation that allows the company to be built. So values are what you build your organization on. Number three, the values of an organization are like a ruler. They set the standard for the team's performance. It's from those values that you get your standard. Number four, the values of an organization are like a compass. They give direction and they give guidance. I think it was Roy Disney who said one time, it's not hard to make decisions when you know what your values are. But let me just turn it around. It's very hard to make decisions when you don't have any values. I mean, you're just kind of whippy and in the wind and just kind of go any way that I suppose the wind blows. Number five, the values of an organization are like a magnet. They attract like-minded people. You see, this is the law of identity. Basically, this is saying that the values define the team. So when your team has shared values, these values are being practiced, these values are being observed. So who is attracted to your organization? Like begets like. Birds of a feather flock together. So the people that are being attracted to your organization are people that have like values. So because values are displayed in behavior, they're easily seen, they're easily experienced, they're easily witnessed. And so when people witness those values and they see those values, there's a drawing to that organization of people that have like values. Number six. The values of an organization are like an identity. They define and they identify who the team really is. Now, I can get passionate about values, so let me just talk to you for a moment about one of the values of our company. We have 6 values in our Enjoy organization. But all I need to do is teach one. I don't need to teach 2, or I don't need to teach 3. One will get the point across. One of the values of the Enjoy group is that we truly want to add value to people. I said that in an earlier training tape today. My goal is to add value to people. When I go help somebody, when it's done, I want to say that I've been able to add value. If I've added value to them, I'm a happy person. So that is a personal value in my life. And because it's a personal value in my life, and because I'm a founder, and I'm an owner, and I'm a leader of an organization, that those values have bled through. And I've taught those values to my people. Basically, I've told them the only reason for us to exist is to add value to other people. And if we don't add value to someone, if we don't add value to an organization, if we don't add value to a company, if we don't add value to a congregation, if we don't add value to people, we really shouldn't be doing what we're doing. So let me share with you, when I was teaching this value to my organization, I shared with them 4 ways of how to add value to people. Remember, values are exhibited through behavior. So if adding value to people is a value of my organization, which it is, then I need to teach my people how to truly act out and behave and add value to people. And there are 4 things that you need to do to add value to people. I want to give those to you right now. Number 1. We add value to people when we truly value people. Now, isn't that simple? But it's powerful. Don't miss the statement. We add value to people when we truly value people. What I'm saying is this. If you or I don't truly value people, we truly won't add value to them. Can I tell you what happens when you don't value people? You take advantage of them. You use them for your means. You get all of your motives impure in the process. You begin to manipulate. You begin to get into politics. You begin to play games with people. Your agenda gets real fuzzy. You see, you have to truly value people. If you don't truly value people, okay. You may add value to a person in an event or in a moment. But I'm not talking about events and moments. I'm talking about a lifestyle. I'm talking about my goal is to add value to Ron not only today, but tomorrow and next month and next year. And the only way that I can ever do that is if I truly value him as a person. Not value what he can do for me, not value what he's doing for his company, but just truly value him, period. Now, I'm going to give you the acid test to help you know if you truly value people. It's a very simple test. Don't answer it by any visible signs. Just go inside. It's easy, simple. It's a yes or a no. Here's the question. Do you add value to people that you do not know, or people that it's impossible for them to add value back to you? That's a major question. In other words, do you add value to people outside of your family? Outside of your company? Oh, of course you're adding value to somebody in the company, because if you can help them to go to a whole new level, they're going to help you to go to a whole new level. I'm not talking about that. Now, you want to do that. But how about the stranger or the person that you don't know? How is your behavior to people that you're never going to meet again, you're never going to see again? Do you truly value people? See, for leaders, this is a very important question. Because leaders are usually ahead of the pack. That's why they're leaders. They see a little farther, they sense a little bit more, they've got a little bit of edge, and we'll talk about that because that's a teamwork law. But because leaders are a little bit ahead, it's very easy for leaders to manipulate people or to use them for their advantage. And nothing is worse than a leader that manipulates people. Now, you motivate them, but don't manipulate them. When you motivate people, you move them together for mutual advantage. When you manipulate them, you move people together for your advantage. And there's a world difference between the two, so don't get them confused. Okay. So we add value to people when we truly value people. Number 2. We add value to people when we know and relate to what they value. Isn't that simple? Now, this is a relationship teaching point. The only way that you can truly add value to people is get to know them. Because the only way that I can truly know and relate to you, what's your name?
Paul.
Paul. The only way I can truly know and relate to you is to know what you dream about, know what you cry about, know what you sing about. In other words, when I can identify with those things, now I can relate and identify with you, and now I can add value to you. So what I'm saying is, there is no lasting value added to people without a healthy, sustained relationship. Has to be. You can only add value to people that you know and relate to. Number 3, you add value to people. Now, this is a value that we have in the Enjoy group. That's why I'm teaching. That's why I'm passionate about it. You add value to people when you make yourself more valuable. Let me explain that one. You add value to people when you make yourself more valuable. Let me illustrate. The only way that I can increasingly add value to you is by increasingly improving myself. Now, I asked earlier, how many of you read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership? Okay, now. How many of you are going to read the 17 Laws of Teamwork? Now, let me tell you something. Thank you very much. My wife and kids will be happy. Now, let me tell you something about whatever books you read, whatever tapes you listen to, whatever conferences you attend. The only way I can continually add value to you is to continue to grow. Think about this. I have to make myself more valuable because that's the only way that I can continually add value to you. In other words, you're loving this conference and I'm enjoying teaching it, but can I tell you something? You don't want to come back tomorrow and hear the same stuff again. Been there, done that. So you're going to enjoy the teamwork book. But can I tell you something about the teamwork book? Once it's done, you don't want to buy another one. You don't want to say, boy, that was so good, I think I'll buy another one just like it. Not for yourself. You see, the only way that I can continually add value to you is make myself more valuable. So when I was spending some time last summer with New York publishers who were working on my next book, and I was trying to decide which publisher I would go with. As I sat in my hotel in New York City, knowing I was going to see 4 major publishers the next morning, or the next day, I'm sitting there and I'm asking myself the question, what's the question they're going to ask me? And the question I thought a publisher would ask me was, if I was sitting down interviewing me about maybe publishing a Maxwell book, was, you've already written about 20 books. So I've got a question for you. Do you have any more books in you? Isn't that a good question? Or are you running out of gas? Are we getting an empty tank? So I sat down that night and I thought, how many books do I have in me? I don't know, but let it flow. 3 hours later, I have 7 books in me. They haven't been birthed yet. Man, I looked at those 7 books. I said, my goodness, which one do I write next? And I was already writing 2 books, so I'm 9 books out. So the next day, when I went to the publishers and I'm sitting down, sure enough, the first New York publisher looked and said, John, we've read your stuff. We're very excited about potentially developing a relationship here, but we've got to ask you a question. You've written so many books. Do you have any more books in you? I said, I'm glad you asked. Are you ready to take notes? For the next 20 minutes, I walked around publishing boardroom in New York City, and I talked to them about the books that I haven't birthed yet, but the things that I'm thinking about, and gave them the titles and what the thesis was going to be of the books, and the essence of why I needed to teach this book, and why people needed it, and would help them grow. They got excited. You see, they got excited because, you see, they realized that as an author, I'm going to keep growing, I'm going to keep learning, I'm going to keep expanding. I'm not running out of gas. Let me put it this way. If you're leading your people and you run out of gas, the normal tendency when you run out of gas is to stop. Can you handle me intellectually? Brilliance just keeps oozing out. So here's the way this works. I'm leading my organization, and all of a sudden I run out of gas. I'm no longer leading my organization. I know all kind of people in companies. They still have the position of a leader, but they quit leading a long time ago. Leaders are learners. And you add value to people by valuing people. You add value to people by knowing and relating to what they value. You add value to people by making yourself more valuable. And again, just excuse my personal faith a moment. You add value to people by doing the things that God values. I believe that's the only thing that's eternal. I believe everything else is wood, hay, and stubble. So last week I was in the Caribbean with Todd Duncan, who is a major teacher, trainer, leadership development for people that are mortgage professionals, and he had 75 presidents of companies in a room, and I spent a day with them. When I was done, I looked at Todd and I said, I got a question to ask you. Did I add value? Was it worth the expense? Todd gave me a big old grin. He's a big guy, tall guy, gave me a big hug and said, John, you have no idea what you've done for us. Okay, I can get on a plane. I can go home. I'm happy. I added value to people. It's a value in my life. I encourage you, as a team member, as a team, get together, sit together, and begin to outline what your personal values are and what your team values are. And listen to me very carefully. The only way that you can be successful on your team is when your personal values match the team values. When your personal values are out of whack with the team values, you may be on the team, but you won't be effective. That's the law of identity. Shared values define the team. Today I would like to talk to you about the law of communication. It's a teamwork law. The law of communication basically says interaction fuels action. I want you to read carefully with me. Stay with me, write in your notes. The two words, information and communication, are often used interchangeably, but they signify quite different things. Information is giving out. Communication is getting through. And there's a world of difference between those two. The law of communication that basically says interaction fuels action is not just sending memos to your office. It's not just informing people of what's happening. It's more than just giving out. It's getting through. Isn't this true? You can answer this question. You know it's because you know it to be a fact. Aren't there times when you hear somebody communicate, and even though they're talking to you, they're not getting through? Uh-huh. I mean, haven't you just listened to somebody speak sometimes, and I mean, your mind just goes grazing. I mean, I see this happen all the time. I see where people in leadership positions are trying to communicate to their staff or to their team. And I'm in the room and I'm watching this, and because communication is something I work hard at and really try to learn to do hopefully as well as I possibly can, because I understand communication and study communicators and understand the dynamics and the artwork of communication. There are a lot of times when I see leaders communicating with people and I want to, they're talking, I want to stop them and say, excuse me. Nobody's home. Now, this is going to really show my age. You won't remember. Do any of you remember the Gong Show? Oh, you do. You make me feel so good. You old people, you. Okay. What I love about the Gong, the Gong Show, somebody's talking and somebody got tired of somebody talking, they got up and, gonged them. I mean, it was over. When you hear the gong, it's over. And I've often said every office, every business, every company, every department, every organization, they need a gong. Huh? Are you with me here? And the leaders talking, the bosses talking, so the team captains talking, the department superintendent, whoever talking. But I mean, nobody's home. And wouldn't it be great if one of the team members could get up and just go over and go, gong. Yeah, have a hook them, Let me do it, sir, if you don't mind. It's amazing. In other words, what they're doing, they're giving out, they're informing, but no, they're not communicating. Now, here's what I have found. I have found that good leaders have the ability to communicate effectively to their team. So what I've tried to do in this lesson is give every person, whether you're the leader on the team or one of the team members, because communication has to constantly be going on all the time. In fact, I believe that even, quote, during the game, the teams that play best together are the ones who communicate together. But I'm going to give you some principles of how to, quote, get through to your team. Number one, follow the puzzle principle. And the puzzle principle is very simple. Less time for less pieces. In other words, if you've only got 3 pieces, you only got 3 thoughts, you only got 3 ideas, don't take an hour. Understand? Reduce it down. Your goal is not longevity. Okay. Your goal is to communicate effectively. And the quicker you can say something, the better off it's going to be communicated. Number 2, repeat the message. No matter what you have said to your team, say it again. You say, well, no, I just said that. That's good. Say it again. In fact, anybody that studies communication says that in a 15-minute lecture, if you really want a point to be understood, you have to repeat it 8 times. So what am I saying about communication? Well, what I'm saying is repeat it 8 times. 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 See how that works? You're going to go home today and they'll say, what did the guy teach you about teamwork? Repeat it 8 times. See, you got this. It's like the old preacher who said, when I get out to preach, he says, I tell him what I'm going to tell him. Then I tell him. Then I tell him what I told him. Okay? Good communicators repeat it. Repeat the message. Number 3, heed the 2x4 rule. And the 2x4 rule is the first 2 minutes determine the success of the next 4. In fact, if you're not good in the front 2, don't do the back 4. That's why many times when somebody's saying something not really communicated and they start off, they've been there for 2 minutes, I want to stand up and say, it's over. Now they say, well, no, it's not over. I'm not done yet. Well, you may not be done yet, but it's over. It's like a guy came up to me the other day and said, how long should I speak? I said, how good are you? We don't give an equal amount of times for everybody. For somebody, some people, 5 minutes is a stretch. For some people, 5 minutes is 4.5 too long. Number 4, avoid the hammock speech. Strong on the ends, soft on the middle. You say, what do I do with the hammock then? Eliminate the middle. If you're strong on the ends, go from one end to the other end. Number 5, ask the writer's question. The writer's question is very simple. Everybody that ever has written a book or anything, the question you always ask as a writer is, will the reader turn the page? Man, when I'm writing, I'm asking, what's going to keep the reader from just closing the book up right now? Will the reader? What I'm talking about there is you want to be creative. You want to stir the curiosity. Don't major in boredom. When you get to heaven, God's not going to say, well done, thou good and boring servant. You've bored a few on earth, come here and bore more. Number 6. Place a 10 on your teammates' heads. And here's why. You will communicate to people based on your belief in people. That's a fact. If I honestly think that I'm talking to you, and if I honestly feel that you're a 2, I'll communicate to you like you're a 2. I'll talk down. I'll probably be condescending. I will not be at all inviting. I will probably short-circuit the whole deal. So, how do you avoid that? When you talk to people, see them not as they are, see them as they can become. Communicate to people not based upon present production. Communicate to people based on future potential. See them as they could be. Put a 10 on their heads. Number 7, live the message. Because people do what people see. Here, hey, don't try to export what you don't have. Nothing is worse than any leader getting up in front of the team that they're trying to lead and trying to pass on values to the team that they don't have. Or to pass on priorities to the team that they don't keep. Don't go there. If you don't live it, don't teach it. Number 8, keep it simple. Please keep it simple. Remember, my name is John. I'm your friend. Keep it simple. I read this the other day. This is so typical of too many people. I fully realize that I have not succeeded in answering all of your questions. Indeed, I feel that I have not answered any of them completely. The answers I have found only serve to raise a whole new set of questions, which only lead to more problems, some of which we weren't even aware were problems. To sum it up, in some ways I feel we are as confused as ever, but I believe that we are confused on a higher level. Haven't you been there before? Haven't you? I listen to some people and I look around the room and I'm saying, am I the only stupid man in the room? I was talking to another guy just the other day in the business community, and he was talking to me. There were about 3 or 4 others in the room, and he lost me. I couldn't hang with him. I didn't have the mental strength to hang with him. And finally, I just stopped him. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, these other guys are smarter than me, and I don't understand what you're saying. And one of the guys right beside me, I didn't even know him, looked at me and said, thanks. This is one of my favorite. You talk about keeping it simple, communication pieces. I just love this one. This is on a college campus. President to academic vice president. Just listen to this. Okay. Next Thursday, Halley's Comet will appear over this area. This is an event that occurs only once every 75 years. Call the division heads and have them assemble their professors and students on the athletic field and explain this phenomenon to them. If it rains, then cancel the observation and have the classes meet in the gym to see a film about the comet. Academic vice president to division chairman. By order of the president, next Thursday, Halley's Comet will appear over the athletic field. If it rains, then cancel classes and report to the gym with your professors and students, where you will be shown films, a phenomenal event which occurs once every 75 years. Division chairman to the professors. By the order of the phenomenal president, next Thursday, Halley's Comet will appear in the gym. In case of rain over the athletic field, the president will give another order, something which occurs every 75 years. Professor to students. Next Thursday, the president will appear in our gym with Halley's Comet, something which occurs every 75 years. If it rains, the president will cancel the comet and order us all out onto our phenomenal athletic field. Student writing home to parents. When it rains next Thursday over the school athletic field, the phenomenal 75-year-old president will cancel all classes and appear before the whole school in the gym accompanied by Bill Haley and the Comets. I've often said to people that communicate and teach and lead, I've often said that if they ever get bold, what they ought to do when they're finished communicating is before they let anybody home, ask somebody just to stand up and in a 1-minute synopsis, tell them what they just told everybody. It would probably be the most discouraging thing that would ever happen. One more communication thought, and that is create a communication environment. And when I mean in a communication environment, I'm talking now about an open door policy where you walk slowly through the hallways. I've always tried to be open, free, available, ready, hang around, just listening, easily entreated. People can come and talk. Okay. Law of communication question, the test you can take on your own. But it's a great test for you and the team leader as far as communication is concerned. The law of communication question, how would my team members answer the above questions about me? Take it and score yourself. Today I would like to talk to you about the law of the edge. It's a teamwork law. Basically, here's what it says. The difference between two equally talented teams is leadership. Got a question to ask you. What allowed the Chicago Bulls to win 7 NBA championships? Leadership. Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson. And isn't it interesting now as Los Angeles has won 2 straight NBA championships? Or another question, what has enabled General Electric to gain the respect of the entire corporate world? Very simple, leadership. His name is Jack Welch. Or what secured the victory for the United States in the Persian Gulf War? Leadership. Colin Powell, Schwarzkopf. Everything rises and falls on leadership. All things being equal, 2 teams come together. The team that has the best leadership will win. I love the book of Proverbs because of its wisdom. Two classic Proverbs that really underscore this law. Proverbs 29:2. When good people run things, everyone is glad. But when the ruler is bad, everyone groans. Isn't that classic? Or Proverbs 29:4. A leader of good judgment gives stability. An exploiting leader leaves a trail of waste. I was up in, where was I? Dayton, Ohio, doing a Peter Lowe seminar last year. And on the program that day were a lot of people, but two of the people that were on the program are two of my favorite people, Zig Ziglar and Lou Holtz. So we had lunch together. And whenever you have lunch with Zig and Lou, you just basically eat. Because the two of them are going to do all the talking. And I let them talk because I eat and take notes. Because, I mean, they have clever thoughts and ideas and humor, and I just take notes and listen to them carefully and then put them in books and then let those boys buy the books. But anyway. So, you know, Lou Holtz has been a very successful football coach. But a couple of years ago, he went to the University of South Carolina, a team that has not been successful. In fact, as we were having lunch that day, Lou had just finished his first season with the University of South Carolina, and they had not won a game. They were winless. So we're having lunch, and I'm saying, Lou, how's the team going to do this year? And of course, when they were winless this first year there, he had inherited a team that really didn't have depth, that didn't have a good bench. I mean, he inherited a very bad team. But he'd been there a year, so he'd been able to put his disciplines, his coaching, his leadership on the stamp on the team. And, of course, he had already recruited one class. So when I was asking, I said, Lou, how's the team going to be this year? He got real excited. And I thought, I don't know if you should be excited about this team. But he got real excited, and he said, John, he said, I want to guarantee you something. And he just got right down my face. He said, I want to guarantee you something. He said, I guarantee you this year the University of South Carolina will have a winning team. And we will knock off of the top 10 list one of the major college teams this year. I guarantee you we'll do that. So I said, whoa, that's pretty big from a team that didn't have any wins last year. I think it was the third game of the year. They came down to Georgia. Or Georgia went to them. I'm not sure where, but they played Georgia. At that time, Georgia was ranked in the top 10. And the University of South Carolina beat them. So I get my little note card out, and I said, Lou, you are a prophet. You did exactly what you said. Good luck for the rest of the season. Said a couple other things and sent it off to him. Well, Lou Holtz not only beat Georgia that year, but I think they won 9 games and went to a bowl game, of which in the bowl game they won. Now, what causes a team that continually loses and the previous year doesn't win a game to turn around and win 9 games and go play in a bowl game on New Year's Day? It's very simple. The answer is leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. The best thing that can happen to a team is for them to get a good leader. In fact, it was Lou who taught me several years ago that a bad coach with good players will lose. But a good coach with average players will win. And this incredible law of the edge says that leadership helps the team to win. In fact, in your notes, leadership always makes a difference for an organization, but perhaps never greater than when 2 equally talented teams are in contest. One of the best leadership books I've ever read, it's a classic book, is The Leadership Challenge. This is a marvelous book because it helps really reduce down to very simplified form what leaders do. Posner Kozas, who wrote this book, basically said, we're going to find and study and discover leadership, and we're going to reduce it down to its simplest common form. Basically, they said leaders do 5 things. Let me share those with you, and then let me share with you how that works with the leader's edge. Number 1, leaders challenge the process. In other words, they don't accept status quo. They don't accept things as they are. They're always asking the question, why? How could this be better? Why do we do it this way? What should we change? They're constantly challenging the process. They don't go with the flow. They ask hard questions. They buck the system. They have probably a courageous entrepreneurial spirit. They challenge the process. That's one thing that leaders do. The second thing that leaders do is they inspire a shared vision. They have the ability to take a vision and inspire people with that until it becomes a shared vision. Remember earlier in one of the training tapes on one of the laws, I talked about what does a leader do well? A leader takes the dream or takes the vision and takes it from me to we. That's exactly what Posner and Kosis are saying right here. They're saying leaders take a vision and they inspire what kind of vision? A shared vision until everybody has ownership of it. Number 3, leaders enable others to act. In other words, leaders become catalysts for people to move forward and to act. They lift people. They mobilize people. People are invigorated by their leadership and seem to become more action-oriented when a good leader is around. Number 4, leaders model the way. Leaders become good examples. They show the way, they go the way, they know the way. In other words, leaders understand that people do what people see. So therefore, they're constantly modeling for their people the type of leadership, the type of team members they want to have play for them. Number 5, leaders encourage the heart. They are chief encouragers. Let me define encouragement for you. I think encouragement is the oxygen of the soul. Encouragement breathes life into people. Remember when you were a kid, I don't know, did you ever do the song when you were a kid in like in elementary school, "Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam"? You know, home on the range, that's what it's called, home on the range, remember? And where there's that little part in the song that says, where there never is heard a discouraging word. I've never found that place. I go to Texas a lot. I've never found that place yet. Keep looking for it. But wouldn't it be wonderful to be in that kind of an atmosphere, in an environment, as Ken Blanchard talks about raving fans, where you encourage and enable people to go to a whole new level where you really do become wind beneath their wings. Now what these two guys say in the Leadership Challenge is that leaders do these 5 things very effectively. They challenge the process, they inspire shared vision, they enable others to act, they model the way, and they encourage the heart. Now here's what I think is interesting about the 5 things or 5 observations of these two men concerning what leaders do effectively. 4 of the 5, numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, are all directly team-related. All 4 of them. Now, challenge the process, that can be done individually. You could look at things as an individual and say, I'm not sure it should be that way, and ask some of the hard questions. You don't have to always challenge the process with a team, but I will tell you this. If you're going to inspire a shared vision, that's with a team. If you're going to enable others to act, there is an assumption there. And if you are going to model the way, there's an assumption there that somebody's following you. And if you're going to encourage the heart, obviously, those 4 are directly connected with your ability as a leader to get your best out of a team. Now, the leader's edge says that the leader makes the difference. So let me just put on a leader's hat for a moment. If you're a leader, let me ask you a question. Are you making the difference for your team? Are you are you a lid lifter? Or do you put lids on your team? I shared with you another training tape that one of the things I like to do is I like to add value to people. And another time somebody's asked me what to do, and I thought about it for a moment, and I said, I lift lids for people. I take the lid off and help them to rise to their potential. I do my best to, let you out of jail. You know what I mean? Move the bars, give you some freedom, get you growing, stimulate that growth just a little bit, help you to see the sky, help you to reach your potential, be all that you possibly could be. That's kind of what I try to do. Now, here's what I know. The things that these two men talk about leaders doing effectively, inspiring a shared vision, these things that involve the team, enabling others to work, modeling the way, encouraging the heart. Here's what I know. You can learn to do these things. Let me ask you a question. Can you learn to encourage people? Yes or no? Of course you can. Now, for some of you, it's going to be hard. It's not your natural temperament. Your gift spiritually is discouragement. You okay? In fact, if you're not sure who you are, ask me after this session. I've been with you all day. There are some of you I just want to meet. I mean, you just have a smile, you just want to go out and meet you. There are some of you, let's wait a day or two. Just kidding. So if you're not sure, during the break, come up and see me. Because I'm always amazed at people that are in the people business, and I see this all the time, people that are in the people business that aren't any good with people. Can I tell you, this is a tough business to be in if you're in the people business and you don't like people. Or if people don't like you. And I just see them, sometimes I say, oh my goodness, you're in the people business, and I look at them and say, oh my goodness. Oh, they're not going to make it. Now, I don't do this, but there are a lot of times when sometimes I just want to go up to people and say, do you know you're in trouble? You can learn to encourage people. You can certainly learn to model the way. Isn't that true? You can certainly, if you want to be a model and model, see what here's what I want you to know. These skills are teachable, transferable skills. When I do leadership conferences, a lot of times people raise their hand, they'll ask the question. In fact, this is the most popular question probably in leadership conferences. People will raise their hand and they'll say, John, I'll say, yeah. They'll say, let me ask you a question. They'll say, are leaders born? And whenever they ask me the question, are leaders born, I give them the same answer. Of course they are. Think about that question. I've never met an unborn leader. Don't particularly want to. Something scary about this. See, when they ask, are leaders born? What they're really not asking, are leaders born? Hello, of course leaders are born. So are non-leaders born. We're all born. Hello. What they're really asking is, are there some people that when they're born, they got it? And are there some people when they're born, they don't got it? And if you got it, you lead. And I guess if you don't got it, you find a line. What's wonderful about training people to be team players, what's wonderful about leadership is that people can learn how to do this. You can learn how to be a leader. You can learn how to be a good team player. You can learn how to develop a good team. It's not an accident. It's not an accident that teams that consistently win because they have good leadership. So I want to call a timeout and say to you, if I were sitting in this room and I had the notebook open, and if I would be taking notes right now, and I just had a teacher say that the law of the edge says that the difference between two equally talented teams is leadership, if that's where you are, and if I heard that, the first thing I'd be saying to myself is that if that is true, the law of the edge says the difference in leadership is based, or the difference in a team is based on leadership, then what I would do is I would do everything in my power to learn how to lead effectively. And here's what is most important, and here's what I don't want you to miss. When you become a leader, one of the things you understand when you become a leader is that you're not only responsible for yourself, but you are responsible for others. The law of accountability. One of the things that I think is kind of a continual load that leaders have is the fact that they're always going to be accountable. But here's the good news. I guess the bad news is it gets a little heavy, doesn't it? I guess the bad news is that the load gets a little heavy, and you kind of carry the team, and you sometimes have to pull the team, and you have to lead the team. I guess, but let me give you the good news. The good news is, if you're a leader, you're the only person on earth that has the ability to multiply yourself through others. And the moment you understand that, then you'll commit yourself to developing your team and training your team and spending time with your team and raising them up to a whole new level, because you'll understand as a leader now, as you go, the people go. And if you go well, they go well. And if you win, they win. And guess what's more fun than winning by yourself? Winning with others. And that's the law of the edge. The law of the edge says that leadership makes the difference. Teamwork law number 16, the law of high morale. The law of high morale says when you're winning, nothing hurts. Okay, audience, got to ask you a question. Going to come down, let's talk a little bit. Here's the question. Think about this now for a moment. This is kind of like a chicken or the egg question. Which comes first to a winning team? Or to a team, not to a winning team. Just which comes first to a team? High morale or winning? Now think about it. I'm not saying you're wrong. Just think about it. High morale. Does high morale come before winning? Or does winning come before high morale? It's a pretty good question, isn't it? All right, let's take a poll. And you got to vote. Don't do this, I'm praying about it. Okay? How many of you believe that high morale comes before winning on the team? Raise your hand. Good, good. How many of you believe that winning comes before high morale? Good. Evenly split. Conclusion? Don't have a clue. It's a fun question. It's a tough question. I'm not even really sure there's an answer, but let me walk you through it for a moment. Here's what I know. When you are winning, high morale is automatic. Is that not true? I mean, I've never seen a winning team with low morale. I mean, you don't go to a team that's just scoring victory after victory, sale after sale, profit growing up, customers. You don't go to a winning team and have to pick them up. I mean, oh man, I'm telling you, this is tough to win. Man, I tell you, this winning is wearing me out. It's these profits and these victories and these new customers. Oh my goodness. Oh, man, this has got to stop. Close the door. We can't handle any more success. But let me tell you also what I know. I've never seen an organization that continually lost that had high morale. In fact, when you're winning, nothing hurts. When you're losing, everything hurts. Isn't that true? Now, so you go to your team. How do you get your players to play above their heads? By lifting their morale. So therefore, as a leader, if this is my team right here, and they haven't been winning, The way to start winning is by lifting morale. If I lift their morale, I lift their expectations, I lift their hopes, I lift their energy. If I can lift their morale, that's how I get them to start winning. And once I get them to start winning, then high morale becomes automatic. Here's what I know. If a losing team is truly losing, you have to lift their spirits to get them to believe in themselves, to believe in their team members, in order for the morale to get to the place where they get into what I call a state of readiness for victory. Now, what I also know is if you can go and develop and train the skills of your people. I want you to realize to develop a winning team, you've got, the reason the high morale winning question is one requires skills and the other requires attitude. And you want to do both. So what you want to do, the real answer to the question is, you want to do both. You want to lift the skills so your people win, but you also want to lift the morale so that they are ready to win. Here's what I know. If you lift the skills so that they can win and you don't lift the morale, you haven't started winning yet, but you lift the skills, you train and develop people, but you don't lift the morale, you don't have your team in a state of readiness to win. If you lift the morale, what happens is they'll win a little bit sooner, because they're getting ready and they're getting prepared. Every leader understands that his or her ability to raise the morale of the team will, to a great extent, determine the team's success. Okay, let's talk about high morale. There are 5 reasons why a team needs high morale. Number 1, high morale is the great exaggerator. As I said just a moment ago, when you're winning, nothing hurts. When you're losing, everything hurts. Now, do you notice the exaggeration of morale? It either makes you bigger than life or smaller than life. It makes you over the top or under the heat. When you're winning and when your morale is high, people think, if you're the leader, people think that you're better than you really are. Do you realize that? And when you're winning, people think the team is better than it is. It's a great example. When you're losing, you know what? If you're the leader and your team just keeps losing, you're 0 for 86, the people think you're worse than you really are. In fact, haven't you been? I've been in situations where, we lost a few, and the people saying, boy, John's a lousy leader. And there have been times when I want to stand up and say, folks, I'm bad, but I'm not that bad. And when you're winning, you could almost stand up and say, I'm good, but I'm not that good. It has the tendency to exaggerate. You see, when you're winning, you look at potential. When you're losing, you look at problems. When you're winning, you look at people that are committed. When you're winning, people get committed. When you're losing, people get uncommitted or unconnected real quick. When you're winning, you attract people. When you're losing, nobody wants to be on the team. High morale is the great exaggerator. It literally lifts everybody up higher than what they really are.